Lesson 133. I will not value what is valueless. Sometimes in teaching there is benefit, particularly after you have gone through what seems theoretical and far from what the student has already learned, to bring him back to practical concerns. This we will do today. We will not speak of lofty, world-encompassing ideas, but dwell instead on benefits to you. You do not ask too much of life, but far too little. When you let your mind be drawn to bodily concerns, to things you buy, to eminence as valued by the world, you ask for sorrow, not for happiness. This course does not attempt to take from you the little that you have. It does not try to substitute utopian ideas for satisfactions which the world contains. There are no satisfactions in the world. Today, we list the real criteria by which to test all things you think you want. Unless they meet these sound requirements, they are not worth desiring at all, for they can but replace what offers more. The laws that govern choice you cannot make, no more than you can make alternatives from which to choose. The choosing you can do. Indeed, you must. But it is wise to learn the laws you set in motion when you choose, and what alternatives you choose between. We have already stressed there are but two, however many there appear to be. The range is set, and this we cannot change. It would be most ungenerous to you to let alternatives be limitless, and thus delay your final choice until you had considered all of them in time, and not been brought so clearly to the place where there is but one choice that must be made. Another kindly and related law is that there is no compromise in what your choice must bring. It cannot give you just a little, for there is no in-between. Each choice you make brings everything to you or nothing. Therefore, if you learn the tests by which you can distinguish everything from nothing, you will make the better choice. First, if you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you chose is valueless. A temporary value is without all value. Time can never take away a value that is real. What fades and dies was never there, and makes no offering to him who chooses it. He is deceived by nothing in a form he thinks he likes. Next, if you choose to take a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. This is because, when you deny his right to everything, you have denied your own. You therefore will not recognize the things you really have, denying they are there. Who seeks to take away has been deceived by the illusion loss can offer gain, yet loss must offer loss and nothing more. Your next consideration is the one on which the others rest. Why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? Here it is easiest of all to be deceived. For what the ego wants, it fails to recognize. It does not even tell the truth as it perceives it, for it needs to keep the halo which it uses to protect its goals from tarnish and from rust, that you may see how innocent it is. Yet is its camouflage a thin veneer which could deceive but those who are content to be deceived. Its goals are obvious to anyone who cares to look for them. Here is deception doubled, for the one who is deceived will not perceive that he has merely failed to gain. He will believe that he has served the ego's hidden goals. Yet though he tries to keep its halo clear within his vision, still must he perceive its tarnished edges and its rusted core. His ineffectual mistakes appear as sins to him because he looks upon the tarnish as his own, the rust a sign of deep unworthiness within himself. He who would still preserve the ego's goals and serve them as his own makes no mistakes according to the dictates of his guide. This guidance teaches it is error to believe that sins are but mistakes, for who would suffer for his sins if this were so? And so we come to the criterion for choice that is the hardest to believe because its obviousness is overlaid with many levels of obscurity. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives. And thus, you do not realize there are but two, and the alternative you think you chose seems fearful and too dangerous to be the nothingness it actually is. All things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all, entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy, just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke, which hides the very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. What is the gain to you in learning this? It is far more than merely letting you make choices easily and without pain. 13. Heaven itself is reached with empty hands and open minds, which come with nothing to find everything and claim it as their own. We will attempt to reach this state today with self-deception laid aside and with an honest willingness to value but the truly valuable and the real. Our 2 extended practice periods of 15 minutes each begin with this. I will not value what is valueless, and only what has value do I seek, for only that do I desire to find. 14. And then receive what waits for everyone who reaches unencumbered to the gate of heaven, which swings open as he comes. Should you begin to let yourself collect some needless burdens, or believe you see some difficult decisions facing you, be quick to answer with this simple thought. I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me. Lesson 133. The nodes will not value what is valueless. What a bold thing to say, and an even bolder thing to actually mean. We don't usually wake up thinking, let me spend the day chasing what doesn't matter. But the truth is, that's exactly what we do. Not because we're wrong, but because we don't yet know how to tell the difference. The Course begins this lesson with a moment of compassion. It says, let's bring all this big spiritual talk down to where you actually live. Your habits, your choices, your desires. Not the stuff you post about, the stuff you ache for in silence. We're not going to talk about high ideals today. We're going to talk about what helps you now. That's where the real learning is, not in theory, but in what makes your next decision lighter. Then it makes a stunning claim. You're not asking too much of life. You're asking far too little. We settle, we try to be content with just getting by. But deep down, we know we were made for more. Not more stuff, more peace, more meaning, more joy that doesn't disappear. But we don't know where to look, so we look where everyone else is looking, at bodies, at achievements, at how to be somebody. We chase what the world praises, then wonder why it always feels just out of reach. And the Course says something brave here. It doesn't want to take anything from you. It just wants to show you that the world doesn't actually satisfy you. It's not punishment, it's clarity. There are no real satisfactions in the world because satisfaction lives in the mind. The world can bring temporary comfort, but real peace doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. So now the Course gives us a test, not a test of faith, a test of value. It says, let's get clear on what's worth wanting. Let's hold up what you desire to some honest questions. Does it last forever? Does it bless everyone, not just you? Can it be shared without being diminished? Does it bring guilt or peace? If it fails that test, you're not bad for wanting it, but it means the thing can't give what you hope it can. That's what valueless means. Not useless in the world, just incapable of giving lasting peace. And here's the catch. You can't create your own laws of value. You don't get to decide what peace should come from. You only get to see where it actually does. The ego gives you 100 options, but they're all the same. Forms of emptiness. It says you have freedom to choose, but really, it wants to keep you busy choosing between illusions so you never stop and ask if there's another way. The Course simplifies it. There are only two choices. That's it. Truth or illusion. Peace or pain. If you had to choose between a real diamond and a fake one, you'd want to know which was which. Not to judge, but to stop wasting time polishing what can't shine. That's why it's actually generous to only have two options. It means you're not stuck in confusion forever. When we think we have endless choices, we get overwhelmed. And a confused mind always delays the decision. Why? Because it's scared of choosing wrong. But what if you couldn't get it wrong anymore? What if there were only two paths, and one of them was nothing pretending to be something? That's freedom, that's what we're learning here. And now the Course gives another key insight. There's no halfway outcome, no middle ground. Every choice brings either everything or nothing. Not because God is dramatic, but because truth is whole. You're either remembering who you are, or you're forgetting. That's why learning how to tell the difference matters so much. If you know how to spot what's real, you'll stop trying to feed on what starves you. So how do we know when we're choosing wrong? Here's the litmus test. If what you choose will not last, it's not worth calling valuable. Temporary things might feel good, but they can't make you whole. They fade, they change, they die. And anything that fades was never actually yours. It offered nothing real, not because it was evil, but because it had no substance to give. It's like trying to drink from a hologram. It looks like a cup, but it holds no water. And if you try to take value away from someone else, you lose too. Not because God punishes you, but because you've taught your mind that value is limited. Now you don't just see them as separate, you feel separate too. And in that separation, you forget that everything real is already yours. You've bought into the lie that gain comes from someone else's loss, but the truth is, loss only brings more loss. So now we get to the most honest question of the whole lesson. Why are you attracted to the thing you chose? What's the real reason? Is it because you think it makes you feel safe, special, seen? What purpose does it serve in your mind? Because the ego hides its real motives. It dresses up fear like it's love. It puts a halo on guilt and calls it wisdom. It makes selfishness sound like survival. But deep down, the ego doesn't even believe its own story. It just wants to keep you away from peace. And most of us go along with it because we're afraid to admit we've been deceived. But the Course says, don't be ashamed, just be willing to look. Because if you are deceived, you won't even realize that you didn't actually gain anything. You'll think you served some higher purpose, when really you just kept the ego's secrets safe. So what does this all add up to? It means every time you feel guilt about your decision, you're choosing from fear. That guilt is your alarm bell. It's telling you you've let illusion stand between you and the truth. It feels scary because it looks like giving up something important, but you're really just letting go of nothingness. And now the lesson wraps us in one final image. Heaven is reached with empty hands and open minds. Empty hands mean you're not clinging anymore. Open minds mean you're not arguing anymore. You're not trying to convince God to give you peace. You're just finally willing to receive it. And that's all today's lesson is saying. Let go of what doesn't give you peace. And what is truly valuable, what is eternal, what cannot be lost, is already yours. Because the moment you stop calling illusions treasure, you remember you were never poor. I will not value what is valueless, for what is valuable belongs to me.